Well, hi everyone, I'm Monty McKinnon. Thank you for joining me, and this is Tea with Monty. We have a few questions here that I'm going to answer. A couple of you sent me several questions, and a couple of you have sent me the same question, which is very interesting. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, what do you say we spin the intro? No, let's forget the intro. Let's get right to it. First off, John, down in Sarasota, Florida, wants to know about stacking wood. Do you stack it vertically or do you stack it horizontally? I stack it horizontally. Now, I know down in Sarasota you've got a lot of humidity. I totally get that. I'd like to experience some of that next January and February. Maybe you could let me know when and where to go. That would be great. At any rate, horizontal seems to be the way everybody is doing it. Now, I've been in several different lumber mills where they actually cut the wood from trees and whatnot, and they stack it in a lot of these mills. That's all stacked horizontal. I know that there's a place down in Burlington, there's another place in Cambridge, both here in southern Ontario. There's another Century Mill down Stouffville Way, which is just east of where I am here and east of Toronto. And everything I've seen there has been horizontal. Now, that doesn't mean to say they won't have some wood stacked on a vertical, but basically for guitar work, everything seems to be horizontal. I remember going through the Benedetto factory in Georgia there in Savannah, and Bob Benedetto has everything flat, and his whole plant is controlled with humidity so that it's at the right environment for building guitars, and they probably build some of the best jazz guitars in the world, and that's what they do. The wood I saw there was flat, so I'm assuming that's the standard. Now, the key here is humidity, so you need to get yourself into a room where you're stacking your wood with a dehumidifier to maintain somewhere around the 40 to 45% relative humidity, so that when you take it to a higher humidity area and it takes on moisture, that's fine. But when you come back to a lower humidity, it will come back down to the 40, 42, and it will be fine. But if you make something upwards of, let's say, 60 or 65% relative humidity, where there's a lot of moisture in the air, and then you take it somewhere, will be ridiculous. Or you go to Arizona, and it's dry in Arizona, what'll happen is you'll lose the moisture, everything will shrink in the guitar, which is glued together, as you know, and therefore it will start cracking and start lifting the bridge and other things of that nature. Most of the damage I've seen done on guitar tops, etc., are all caused by humidity. So I hope that answers your question, John. Thank you for sending that in. Now, I'm putting my glasses on because I got an email from Kara, and John and Kara, the retired travelers, okay, if you haven't checked out their particular YouTube channel, you really need to do that because it's worth viewing. But Kara writes me, and she has sent in a whole bunch of questions here. She said, what are my thoughts on this new bill from the Canadian government, C11, which is from the CRTC, which is a Canadian Radio Television Commission, and what they're looking for is more Canadian content in our YouTube videos and in Instagram and all the other social media network. They want more Canadian content as opposed to not Canadian content. And the interesting thing about that is you can trust, of all the governments anywhere, you can trust the Canadian government to screw it up better than anybody when it comes to something like this, because they will mess it up so bad. That's their history. That's what they do. Time for tea now. I think I better calm down. I need this. So we have to wait and see. It depends what they do. It's like the CITES agreement where you can't ship certain woods out of the United States into Canada, but I could make it here with some exotic wood and take it down into the United States. if I'm a performer and I have to fill out paperwork in order to take a particular guitar across the border or bring it back up from the States. It's nuts. So when it comes to messing things up, rely on the government to be the one first in line to do that. So we'll have to just wait and see, Kara. I don't know how that's going to work out. You asked how many guitars have I made? Somewhere between 25 and 30. I think I may be, I'll pick a number at 27. That's pretty much the middle, somewhere in and around there. What was it like for me to meet President Reagan? That was a very interesting experience. It took place in Orlando, and it had to do with conjunction with a girls' home, a charity, and I was doing some consulting work to a consultant who was consulting to that charity. So I was brought in, and it was quite interesting because he arrived, unmarked car, and security was all over the place. I mean, you could see them. I mean, just as obvious as anything. There's one over there, there's two over there's somebody there, there's somebody back here. And I drove right in with the fellow that brought me in there and got out of the car and walked right up to the house and walked in. And I can remember saying, Tommy, how is it that I can actually walk right in here and you've got well, he had left the White House, I think, about 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks earlier. And I said, he's coming here and nobody's even asked me who I am. And he laughed and he said, oh, they know what time you got on the airplane last night and they know what time you arrived here in Florida. They knew where you were staying. They had somebody outside your hotel door there, the motel where I was staying near the particular charity, and they watched you the entire night. They knew what time you came out for breakfast. They watched us come up here today. They know all about you, and you're deemed not to be a threat and of no possible consequence whatsoever. But back to Ronald Reagan. Huge man, absolutely huge. I think he was about 6'2", 6'3". He had a hand on him where my hand would fit in this part of his hand. It was amazing. I mean, he was just huge. The interesting thing was there were some girls there who shared their story with him. He was sitting there, Nancy was sitting beside him, and the security that was with him was doing this the entire time. Just like, they had a neck on them like the thigh of my leg. I mean, it's just huge. And it's interesting enough, when the one girl finished her story, she said, now I'm a Christian. And Reagan raised his hand like this and went down and slapped his leg and said to her, that's the most important decision you will ever make in your life. And he went on to say, I had a job in Washington, and I couldn't do that job for 15 minutes if I didn't know that I could call on the Lord for help. And I thought, wow, that's quite something. That's impressive. So he wanted to see the dorms, and I wanted him to become the honorary chairman of this particular charity. So we go into the dorms, and we knock on a door, and we open it up. I mean, this was a gift from the Lord himself. Opened up the door, and there's two girls sitting on the bed. One girl has her arm around the other girl who is sobbing away and crying. And he says to her, little girl, why are you crying? And she looks at him and says, nobody wants me, nobody cares about me, and nobody loves me. Well, Reagan was also known as the Teflon president, that nothing would stick to him. Well, I saw him melt instantly, and he says, I want you, I care about you, and I can love you. How about, are you ready? I'll give you my private mailing address in California, and you can write to me, and I'll write to you, and we'll become pen pals. You'll go back to school, and you'll finish school, and then I'll help you find a job. Would you like that? And yeah, okay. Like, I don't think she knew who she was talking to. So at that point, as we had left the room, I turned to him and I asked him if he would consider becoming the honorary chairman of this charity. And he looked at his wife And she turned to me and says, does this mean that you just basically want to use our names? I said, yes, that's exactly right. You don't attend any meetings. If you want minutes of reports and things that take place here, we're happy to send that along. But no, you don't attend any meetings or anything. It's just the fact that you would help us greatly by being the honorary chairman. She turned to him and she says, Ronnie, I don't have a problem with that. And he says, I don't either. And he turns and he says to me, that'll be fine. Sure, absolutely. So I ended up talking some more with them, and then we ended up escorting them out to the car, and I remember helping Nancy into the back of the car. And I said, until we meet again. She said, yes, it would be nice to meet again. And there you go. That was it. I was quite impressed with them. They were very genuine people. I think they really cared about people. And I know that they were donors of this charity. And that's something special. So that was my meeting with President Reagan. Now, you went on, Kara, to say, and this I thought was the funniest one of them all. You said, when did you discover that you were a writer? I never considered myself a writer. I've had people call me an author. I've never considered myself an author. I just didn't. I just had thoughts, ideas, and I just sat down and wrote. I've written a number of books. Two of them are out of print. I'm in the process of rewriting those books and updating them. And I'm finishing off with the mystery that we've got on the go here. And I think you're going to really enjoy the mystery. It will be out certainly at the end of the summer or the beginning of September. We're at the kind of wrapping up very soon the editing on that. That will be done in another couple of weeks, and then we're good to go with that. I've already started the sequel to the book, and I can't tell you anything about that yet because it's all up in here and I haven't got it down on paper, but I've written some of it, but we'll wait and see how that goes. I still don't think of myself as an author or as a writer, but it's just a fun project. And as my hands shake more and I become incapacitated in the workshop, I have to do something. So the writing would be a great way to segue into something different and develop a new hobby. Now, you asked me what was my favorite book. Well, I read 17 books last summer over the summertime, and a lot of them were by Terry Blackstock, and I've read a lot of James Patterson. I've read a lot of his stuff. And I like those. Those are kind of mystery books, so it all fits in who I am and what I'm about. You said, what is my happiest life moment? Oh gosh, I've had so many. I can't even begin to think. Was it when I got married? Was it when my children were born? Was it Peter and I traveling around the world together, which was just a blast? I mean, there's been just so many happy moments in my life that it's hard for me to identify one. How long have I been married? Sometimes about 10 minutes. Other times like about 45 years, 60 years. Obviously not long enough. I'm very blessed with a very good wife, and we have a great relationship, and I'm very fortunate, and it's just terrific. And then you say, at 82, what are your thoughts on how to do it all over again? Would I make some changes? Yes, I would make a lot of changes. I would have had a lot more fun sooner on, younger in my age, and I would have developed hobbies earlier on. Had I started building guitars when I was in my 20s or my 30s, that's what I'd be retiring from today. I enjoy it, and there's not enough luthiers. We've got plenty of guitars. We don't need more guitars. What we need are better guitars. And so I would have focused back then on doing guitars with the CNC machines and things of that nature, and that would have been a blast to have spent a career doing that. Anyway, I hope you've got your tea with you. That's my, I'm having Yorkshire today. So there you go. Would I make changes? Yeah, you know I'd make changes for sure. We'd all make changes, I think, because we learn from our mistakes, and we correct those, and we carry on. I would not waste my time on trivial things and I would pursue more things of more value, not value in the sense of dollar monetary type value, but value in the sense of encouraging other people and helping and inspiring other people to be the best that they can possibly be, to focus their vision and get their passion for life and enjoy every moment you can, because it's going to be gone real fast. Honestly, I'm 82. How much more time? I don't know how much I've got, but the one thing is, I'm going to burn out. I'm not going to rust out. So let's talk about Alan down in Florida. He says, what thickness do I sand the back and the top of the guitar before gluing them together? I don't, Alan. What I do is when I get the wood and it's thicker than it should be, that's when I glue it together, because it gives me a better edge to bring together. So I take my time, I plane it down, I will thickness it later, I bring it together, and you've seen me do that. There's a video on me using that jig where I clamp it together and put in the wedges there to pull it all together. And once it's glued, the back and the top, then I scrape off any excess glue, and then I leave it to harden. And once it's hardened, I now have a sheet like this. What I do is I take a 1/4 inch rod. I just bought some threaded rod at Home Depot, 1/4 inch, and I set it at each end of the top piece of wood that I'm using. Let's talk about the top. So I make it for the top, and then I go over to the thickness sander, and at the thickness sander, I run it through and I bring it down, maybe to 115, somewhere around there, 110, and then I put it back over here on the workbench and set it on top of these rods. Now, this is the way my mentor taught me to do it. I used to take it to a specific thickness. I take a 5-pound weight, like, look at my muscles. Okay, we're doing this with 5-pound weights. So I take one of those weights and I put it on the top, and the top will then depress, go down. And when it touches the workbench, I'm at the right thickness. If it's still above the bench, I go back to the sander and I sand it some more until that 5-pound weight just brings it down nicely to touch the bench. And that seems to be the way it works. It's a deflection test, and it deflects so well. The guitars sound amazingly good. I'm very happy with them, and that works better than saying, take it down to 95 or take it down to 78 or whatever the case may be. So think about the deflection test and that 5-pound weight. All right, Michael from Michael Builds. Now, if you folks haven't seen Michael Builds, boy, oh boy, give your head a shake. This is a channel that you absolutely need to be glued into and to watch constantly. Make sure you subscribe, because he does insane things. He's funny as a loon in harvest. I mean, this guy is just out there on the edge all the time doing crazy things with concrete. And if you need a pair of concrete shoes, I'm sure Michael could accommodate you. At any rate, check him out. So he writes me and he says, I know the term from working in concrete about the trades and trades apprentice and masters or a mentor, somebody teaching you, training you how to become an electrician, become a plumber, or whatever the case may be. Okay, you apprentice for those positions. When you're done and you pass a test, then you're given paper and signed off. He says, is there any such thing as that for luthiers? And the answer is, to my knowledge, no. I don't know of any luthier association. I know groups of luthiers that have little associations that get together and exchange ideas and help one another. But I don't know of any national organization of the American Luthiers Society or the Canadian Luthier Society or the North American Luthier Society or the World's Luthier Society or anything like that, that actually tests you, and then you get a certified certificate or something that says, yes, you can use the term luthier. a luthier is a person who makes a stringed instrument. So guitar, viola, violin, whatever you happen to be making, a banjo, something of this nature, if it's got strings, you're a luthier. So that's how it works. Michael, I don't know of any place that you would go to actually be signed off as a luthier. Now, there are, on this channel here, I have about 250 videos up, and they all relate to building a guitar. So you've seen me go through a couple of acoustic guitars. I'm just about to finish this thing right here. This is, I'm just in the process of putting the finish on this right now and getting it ready. The neck is done, and it's already to be glued on there. And the question that I get next is, will I build another one? I don't know. I really think kits might be the way for me to go, but I want to do that because there are a number of people who are in apartments don't have all the tools that I have, and I want to show you how you can make a guitar without all the tools that I have. So a kit would be a good idea to show you how to do some of that. So I'm thinking of that. Now, the last question is a biggie. I get a lot of people who write me and contact me asking me to pass on information to Peter. Would I give Peter this? Could you have Peter call me? I want to do something with Peter. We've got a business proposition we'd like to present to Peter. Peter is extremely busy, like big time. All right, so you got that. He's way more busy than I am. And honestly, I don't know how he manages to do everything that he does because he is so busy. Now, I don't pass on any of that information to Peter because he doesn't need that from me. You know, being his dad, he would feel obligated that, okay, Dad's done this, I've got to respond to this. No, I'm not going to put him in that position. I don't want to do that. If you want to contact Peter, the best thing you can do is go to his website, petermckinnon.com, and there's a contact thing up there in the corner of his website, and you can look at his website and contact him. There's a place for business contacts and other stuff. He also announces that if you're sending spam, you won't be responded to. So it's as simple as that. So if you want to reach Peter, go to the website, do that. I'm not an agent to pass on anything to Peter. So that's it for this episode of Tea with Monty. And I am so happy for the questions. And I think you've asked really good questions. And those are questions that are important if you're making guitars and whatnot. Kara's asked a lot of questions, and she's a fun person, she and her husband, John. And you really do need to check out these people and check out Michael Builds and look at some of their stuff, because those are two people, those channels, I subscribe to them and I follow them all as much as I possibly can. And I'll even go back and relook at some of the things that they've done. So that's it for me. Thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Hit the like button if you like the videos. Again, this is Tea with Monty. It's a little longer than normal. And now it is time for my Yorkshire tea, and just to pick me up for today. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your questions. Don't forget to check out the community section on my channel page, because I'm writing articles in there. I think I've got quite a few of them up there already, and if you haven't, feel free to comment on them, whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, or if there's an article you want me to write something about and I've got an opinion on it, send it to me. I want to do surveys in there. I want to put up some video shorts on there. So let's make this thing work together, all right? Thanks. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Oh boy.